Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about the Fujifilm X-T4, even though this is not going to be a review, because to be a review I would need to test it for a long time, in a lot of occasions and a lot of different environments. I'm going to be focusing on the vlogging part more than anything else, just because that's what I'm interested in when it comes to the X-T4. Before getting into the testing of this camera, let me thank our friends at Toult. They are my go-to shop when I need to buy anything photography related, and they've been serving me well for more than 10 years, and I would highly recommend you to look at their prices. I don't know if they ship in Europe, maybe, but in general they have great prices, great customer service, and a lot of availability of items. And watch out for their crazy offers that sometimes they do. So getting back to the reason of this video. If you've been following my channel, you know that I'm primarily shooting with the Fuji X-T3 and the 16 to 80mm f4. This is because this combination has served me very well when it comes to photography in the last, let's just say, year. And I'm very pleased with it. Now, you all know that the X-T3 was welcomed as a great camera. It won a lot of Camera of the Year prizes pretty much everywhere. But despite all of that, the camera had three major flaws that everybody were complaining about. And this is the lack of an image stabilization system on the sensor, the lack of a flippy screen, and a subpar battery that didn't last long enough. With the introduction of the X-T4, Fujifilm fixed all of this, because the X-T4, as you all know, has the flippy screen, a bigger battery, and the image stabilizer in the sensor, the IBIS. So on paper, this should be the perfect camera, pretty much, just because they fixed all of the complaints that people had with that camera. But is it perfect? We'll see that afterwards, but we must praise Fujifilm for fixing all of that, and also on top of that adding the 240 frames per second and the stills movie switch that is a game changer if you're a hybrid shooter. It allows you to go from stills to movie to video without the need to fiddle with controls and anything like that. It's going to remember what was your last setting, and it's going to start from there. This is a game changer. This is really a game changer, and I need to thank you, Fuji, for doing that. Even though I think they could do it even in the X-T3 via firmware upgrade, because even though it's in a different position, there's a movie mode anyways, even though I doubt they're going to do it. But hey, it's already a great thing that they did it on the X-T4. So now, going back to the vlogging part. Why am I interested in the X-T4 for vlogging? My current setup is a DJI Osmo Action and a Rode Video Micro when it comes to the vlogging part, for my other channel, which is Sicilians on the Road. It's in Italian, but it talks about trekking and travel. So have a look at it. You may get some good ideas for places to visit. So I've been using that together with the Fujifilm X-T3 and the 16 to 80 for the B-rolls and for the photography part of it. My idea with the X-T4 would be to replace the X-T3 and use the X-T4 only with the 16 to 80 as my only camera that does everything, thus increasing the image quality of the vlogging and increasing the overall production of the channel. So that's why I'm interested in the X-T4 for vlogging. And I guess also the X-T4 came out right after the X-T3 on purpose for that. I mean, all of the additions they added is for vlogging purposes. It's aimed at vloggers, and so I guess that's the main difference between the X-T3 and the X-T4. Now, of course, there's different various settings. Everything is customizable, and there's a lot of possibility that this camera gives you. I tested the camera a lot with a lot of other different options, and I found out that for vlogging, the best solution is continuous autofocus with the center point selected with the widest area as possible in area mode with face tracking. Also, the setting is to have the slowest autofocus speed and the quickest autofocus tracking sensitivity. When it comes to stabilization, I found out that the addition of the digital stabilization, which crops it even further, like 1.1, but it's not a big crop anyways, in addition to the IBIS, provides the better results. So after the first test, I focused all of my further testing with those settings because those are the ones that have given me the best results in general. Of course, when it comes to testing a camera and testing a camera for vlogging, a lot of the result depends on the lens you're using with it. And I decided not to stick just with the 16-80, but also to test other lenses that I have, such as the Zeiss 12mm Toult f2.8, the 18mm f2 from Fuji, and the 15-45 zoom from Fuji, just because I just wanted to see if different lenses would provide different results. Now, what my testing would be focused on? It would be focused on understanding if the complaints that after a first bunch of super positive reviews on the X-T4 when the camera came out, a lot of complaints started to come out when it comes to the reliability of the face tracking system and the smoothness of the IBIS. So I was looking at these two things because these two things may make the difference between a great footage and a not so great footage. So let's just start with the Zeiss 12mm f2.8. I'll tell you what I think about the combination of the X-T4 with this lens, and then I'll show you some footage that shows what I'm telling you. So the 12mm f2.8 is a great lens, a very good lens for vlogging. The autofocus, although a little bit noisy, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. The field of view is wide enough that you don't have to think too much about looking at the frame and making sure you're positioned right, because pretty much you're gonna fit in the frame no matter what. But at the same time, being so wide, the stabilization system introduces a little bit of wobbling in the corners. You will see when I show you the footage what I'm talking about. While the stabilization is smooth, if you look at the face, it's not so smooth if you look at the corners. This is one of the downsides for this lens. What else? The weight of the lens is well balanced with the X-T4, even though the combination of them and the microphone brings the overall weight close to 1 kilo. So it's not as easy to vlog with such a big rig. But yeah, enough talking, just look at the footage and then we'll be back here to look at the other lenses. Right now I'm vlogging with the X-T4 again, and Zeiss 12mm f2.8 at 2.8. And the reason why I'm using this combination is because it's fairly compact, very wide, and very high quality when it comes to the image quality itself. And this wouldn't be usable at all on an X-T3, which is the camera that I own, because the lack of the stabilization. But with the X-T4, it's IBIS and its digital enhancement of the stabilization. This seems to be a good starting point. Talking about the 18mm f2, this lens is very different from the 12 to 2.8. The field of view is very narrower, but the lens is also brighter. That means that you're going to get a great separation, if you shoot at f2 of course, between the subject, in this case me or whoever vlogs, and the background. This means also great three-dimensional rendering of the frame. It's a very pleasing image to look at. Even though maybe for vlogging the background is too blurred, maybe. But in general, I found out that the autofocus is not that bad, even though it's noisy. And the stabilization works decently with a lens like this. On top of that, the lens has a great image quality itself, and it's so small and so lightweight that it makes it easier to hold it for a long time. This, however, is counterbalanced by the fact that being so narrow, you need to make sure that you hold the camera with your arm fully extended to make sure that your head doesn't get chopped off in the frame. And in the long run, what you gain in weight, you lose it because you need to extend your arm continuously. So it doesn't make it as comfortable for vlogging as it is for the 12mm f2.8. And it makes me wonder how good it would be the X-S10 2.8. I don't have that lens. I would like to test it because that can be a good combination of weight, image quality, aperture, and all of that. Anyways, let's look at the footage and then we'll be back here again to talk about another lens. Here I am again. Now I'm on the 18 f2. You can see that the background is a lot more blurred than before because the lens has a longer focal length and it's also wider when it comes to aperture. So, of course, that's what you're going to get. And let me tell you that image quality wise, this is the combination I prefer over the 12 or the 15-45 that I'm going to test right after this, or the 16-80 that I'm going to test as last in this group of lenses. The reason is that, I don't know, I like it a lot. It looks filmic, I don't know. Moving to the zooms, the 15-45mm is a cheap option that you get from Fujifilm. And to be honest, being so lightweight and so compact is a great addition, especially adding the fact that its field of view is wide enough not to be a problem when you're vlogging, because the 15mm is a great in between the 12 and the 18mm. So it could be a sweet spot, even though you're losing a lot of aperture and a lot of three-dimensionality, and the image quality is not as good as the other two lenses. What I found out is that even though the autofocus is very quiet, it's not as reliable as I would like it to be. And also, the stabilization, even though it's not like a gimbal, however, feels better than the other two lenses. This is probably because of the addition of the optical stabilization that in this case works very fine with the Fuji X-T4 IBIS. So let's look at the footage and then again we'll be back here to talk about the last lens. Now I am on the 15-45mm, which is a nice lens for vlogging because it's super lightweight. It's wide because it's 15mm. It's also stabilized, which would have helped a lot on the X-T3, but it looks like the stabilization works fine with the in-body stabilization, and so this is a good setup for vlogging, to be honest, because the loss of weight, you can immediately feel it in your hands. Now I'm again with the maximum track speed, and it looks like it's not losing me, which is nice. So, as everybody say, a lot of the performance depends on the lens. Now, the 16-80mm. I left it for last because this is my go-to lens, and I would like this to be the lens that fits best my vlogging needs when it comes to using it with the X-T4. Unfortunately, this lens is bigger and heavier than the other lenses, and the field of view is a little bit narrower than the 15 and a lot narrower than the 12 millimeters. The image quality is better, and that's for sure, than the 15 to 45 millimeters. But what I found out is that despite a better image quality, despite a better autofocusing, the fact that the lens is heavy and the fact that its image stabilization, the OIS with the lens, doesn't work well with the sensor stabilization of the X-T4, and there's no way to split them. There's no way that I can choose what to use. Unfortunately, the X-T4 doesn't let you choose. It's either both on or both off, and this is a problem because, as you will see, the footage is very shaky, and this makes me say that the 16 to 80 is not usable for vlogging purposes at all. You'll see, and you will let me know. And here we are with the 16 to 80 millimeters at its highest sensitivity setting for tracking. Now, this lens is perfect for the way I've been using my combo right now, which is X-T3 plus this lens and the Osmo Action for vlogging, because as a photography lens, this gives me incredible results on just one lens. I got all I need, and I got very high quality, especially when I'm going for long hikes like the Alta Via that I did. It was 7 days. Having just one lens is super. But as a vlogging lens, this is not that perfect. It weighs a lot to be used as one-handed tool with a camera such as the X-T4. We're talking more than 1 kilo camera and lens only. Add the microphone, add the stick or the mini tripod you're using to keep the camera, so to get to handle the camera. So you're talking about a lot more than 1 kilo. And based on my previous tests, I came to realize that the two stabilization systems don't seem to work that good together. It seems like that this lens doesn't stabilize. I mean, this lens combined with this camera, the X-T4, don't stabilize the footage as I would have expected, because we have a great image stabilizer on the lens that everybody came to appreciate, especially on the photography section, and a good IBIS on the camera. If they work good together, they should be giving us great results. But my experience from previous tests, this combination is shaking a lot more than I would have expected. Now, what we can say after all of this testing about the X-T4 for vlogging. The camera itself is great. And before getting into the vlogging, let me spend a few words on the photography side of the camera, which is not to be overlooked. The X-T4 is great. The X-T3 was already great for stills. The X-T4 is even greater because the IBIS allows you to use your prime lenses as you've never used it before. You can risk a little bit more. At the same time, a super quiet shutter that it's also capable of doing 15 frames per second, and it's rated for 300,000 cycles, makes you leave comfortable with how the camera is built. On top of that, the huge battery saves you from needing a lot of batteries with you when it comes to shooting. So for photography, it's a no-brainer. The X-T4 is a great camera. But when it comes to vlogging, what can we say? The image quality that it produces, as well as the X-T3, is great. Everybody's praising the image quality that Fujifilm produces for video, and I'm not here to say anything different. The image quality is great. What makes it not perfect for vlogging is that those concerns that vloggers such as Thomas Heaton or Camera Conspiracies or others have already brought up is that the face tracking is not as reliable as it should be, and the stabilization is not as smooth as it could be. Now, if the stabilization is something you can live with because you can slow down your pace while you're speaking and this will help a lot the camera. What is not going to be easy to accept, easy to swallow, is the unreliability of the face tracking, which I can confirm. It doesn't stick to your face as good as you would like it to be. And probably, I've never tried them, but I'm pretty sure that everybody's saying that Canon and Sony are doing a lot better, and I need to trust them. So there's probably a better option for this specific purpose. In general, though, the camera is a great camera. Don't get me wrong, I'm just trying to point out what it's not perfect, because all the rest is great. And people have been complaining about the fact that now we have the rubber flippy doors for the connections instead of the removable door on the X-T3. And yes, the loss of the earphone plug together with the loss of the removable door is a little bit of a difference that I wouldn't have expected. But at the same time, the camera is great. If I didn't have the X-T3 with me, I would go and buy the X-T4 no matter what. I would buy it for sure. But having the X-T3 and having realized that by using the X-T4, I would not improve my vlogging capabilities with the 16 to 80 millimeters because of both the weight and the shakiness of the stabilization. I will probably stick with my current setup, which is again Osmo Action with the microphone, and then the X-T3 and the 16 to 80 for footage and B-rolls. But this is not to say that I will always stick with it. I'm very interested in seeing what the rumored X-S10 is capable of, because that's supposed to be a smaller camera, a lighter camera with image stabilization and flippy screen. In that specific case, I may think, instead of replacing the X-T3, to buy the X-S10 with the 15 to 45 millimeters and use that for vlogging and keep the X-T3 and the 16 to 80 millimeters for photography purposes and for B-roll purposes. This will give me redundancy, so if one camera fails, I also have the other ones, and at the same time better image quality. Even though I'm losing in convenience, because to be honest, DJI Osmo Action is super convenient and it's hard to say goodbye to it. So what else? Thank you for following this video up until here, and thank you for subscribing to the channel if you did, or let me ask you to subscribe to the channel if you did like this video, or if you like other video of my channel. And again, leave me a thumbs up if you liked it, and comment and ask me whatever you think you may need to know. I'll try to answer to all of you, and that's what I've been doing for a year now. So thank you again. And again, thank you for your support. We reached 500 subscribers. It's not a huge channel for sure, but it's still a first goal that I'm very pleased to have achieved. So thank you again, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.